So this is
Google's
Jeff.
hiring IT, like the head of IT right now. I think you guys both have a good shot at that.
All right.
So Jeff is one of the many people that I've spoken to in this podcast who actually changed my life, whether he knows it or not. You did. So you met me early on when I was like a jingle pisher, maybe even before that, and you saw something in me, and we just stayed in touch for many, many years, and he got me involved in something that I'm very passionate about, which is I'm a nerd when it comes to other people's stories. You know, like the idea of being a teacher has always been something that was a romantic notion to me. And Jeff is one of the few people I've ever met who thought that I was worthy enough to sort of inform minds of the future, but he also had an amazing path to where he is as one of the biggest, music managers. In fact, he probably knows most of the people we spoke to in this masterclass, people like Lee Trink and people like Ben Silverman and rappers like 24 Gold. And Jeff knows everybody, but he also knows how to connect the right people to do the right thing. So he is running the school called Clive Davis School of Music at NYU Tisch. And essentially, our podcast has turned into an officially sanctioned masterclass within his realm. But I figure what better way to kick off the series than to actually talk with Jeff and find out how he went from we're talking to a lot of multi-hyphenates. So how many hyphens do you have in your career? Take us back to the first thing you ever did in the business and how you got to where you are.
So we're starting with this. So it's all downhill from here, right? So just to thank you for those kind words. Just to address it, I'm a curious guy, and I'm always attracted and drawn to curious people who like to learn. Love to hear people's stories. It's curiosity that that kind of drives me in general. So my first job, I was a writer for Rolling Stone out of school. I interned for music manager my junior and senior years of college. And spent a lot of time there. And I always wanted to go into music journalism. That's what I wanted to do. And, I worked at Rolling Stone for about a year and a half. And then I moved to Spin. And, I as much as I loved writing, I found the relationship with artists, it was unsatisfying. You go and you spend 3, 4, 5 days on the road with somebody, eating, in their hotel room, eating with their families, and then you never see them again. You write your article, then it's next. So it was generally unsatisfying to me. So when that was in New York, when I had the opportunity to go work for Atlantic Records in LA in the mid '90s, I took the job and was excited to go out there, and I loved it. And but it was also interesting. As I look back now, I certainly didn't realize this at the time, but my path was I always wanted to work closely with artists and be involved with that process. It was something I felt I understood very well, where I could always feel like I knew what they sort of wanted. But even at the record company, I worked at Atlantic and Elektra doing A&R and soundtracks. And, the artists, they didn't like us really. We weren't on their side, but we were. But, when you make that sort of a deal with a record company, they have to make money, and they have, and I think they're much more overt about it today, which is, a record company, says to artists all the time, look, we're going to spend $1 million marketing, promoting this thing, and you want $1 million to sign, you're going to record some of the songs that we choose and do some of the things we say. Otherwise, it's not the right fit. And it wasn't really like that then. So I was unsatisfied with that. I didn't like being viewed as sort of the enemy. And I left Elektra, and I was doing a lot of music supervision at the time.
Who were some of the artists during your era at Elektra?
I mean, that was when, Third Eye Blind was big.
Woo!
Kevin
Yes.
Griffith, Better Than Ezra. Had
Yes.
big records. A lot of hip hop, a lot of R&B. Missy Elliott was making records.
Damn.
Busta Rhymes. It was a great mix. And a lot of great catalog, Doors catalog, things like that. It was a really good time. Atlantic was super hot in those days. They had a lot of boy bands. All for One, Hootie and the Blowfish was big then.
Still low. Basically the good old days of music. Basically what's on my playlist always.
Right? You put on those songs, oh God.
With a little love, handsome tenderness.
Guys,
Do we have to license
That was our audition for you.
I'm feeling a revival in the work. So when I left the lecture, I was doing some supervision. I did some films, TV. I started shopping bands, for deals. In those days, you could do that very effectively. And, my sort of, claim to fame was I found and shopped Hanson, got them the record deal. And
dude, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So they went on to, worldwide massive hysteria. They sold 20 million albums. And I never got paid from the label. And I was 24, 25 at the time. And a friend of mine convinced me to sue them. And just said, look, if you have something they love, they'll sign it tomorrow. But, if you don't stand up for what's yours, you're setting up, you're setting a precedent for yourself in this business. And it actually was really good advice. And it took about 2 years and I won. And, I just decided that it was such an ugly, painful process. I never wanted, it was a very valuable lesson, which was I never wanted to have to sue anybody to get what was rightfully mine ever again. And even much later when I had a situation where a lawsuit would have probably solved the problem, I didn't do it because I figured it was putting it in financial terms, it was easier for me and my company to spend $100,000 to make it go away than to spend 2 years and $1 million to get $2 million to make it go away. And it's really just
I hate that process, and I've been through it, and I know exactly what you mean. And many young people who listen to this may never understand what that means to go chase your money down. And it's like once you've done it once, you experience the pain of going, yeah, that's not for me, or hey, I'm good at it, let's do it again, but it's not for me.
Yeah, and you know what? It hurts, and it took a lot out of me emotionally. And look, anytime lawyers are involved, you've already lost. That's the truth.
Correct.
Because you're sending their kids, you're sending their families to summer camp, not your. It's just it's
Amen.
Horrible. And so I decided that I'm never passing off something I love. And the next thing I found, I said I'm going to manage. The next artist I found that I loved was Michelle Branch. And Michelle, we had a lot of success. She sold a couple million records on her first album, and then I went on to the firm, and I was managing for many years of the firm and worked with Kelly Rowland, Kelly Clarkson. I worked with DMX, Jermaine Dupri.
Wow.
A few of the American Idols. Did some fun stuff. Took the Elliot You Mean record, made it independently. It was the highest selling independent record of all time at that time. And just trying to do some interesting things. Michelle Branch was a pop artist, did a country record. We had the first crossover #1 country record ever by a non-country artist. And, that's very common today. But these things didn't happen in 2000.
I remember
things
that.
were not happening. And I really sort of found a niche of trying to do things differently and break new paths. And, I enjoyed it. For me, I love the challenge of it. But, ultimately, I kind of became disenchanted with the business in general. Like for me, I think that as I grew a little bit older, I just got tired of investing massive amounts of time into people that, through no fault of their own, I knew weren't going to be in my life long term. People, sometimes, you're working with clients and they leave or it doesn't work out or they have children, decide they don't want to tour, whatever it may be. It doesn't always have to be a negative thing, but when you move your honeymoon and you miss kids' birthdays and you miss your own birthdays, being at red carpets in Asia, wherever it may be, it kind of, the bloom was off the rose for me. And I knew at that point that it wasn't what I wanted to continue to do. However, it was all I'd ever known. It was all I'd ever done. And I literally woke up one day and I said to my wife at the time, I said, I don't really love what I'm doing. I don't really like the world that I built for myself, and I don't really like where we live. And she was like, well, you better figure it out. Like we have a mortgage and kids and all that. And so I got an email over the holidays in 2009 maybe. Happy holidays from the Clive Davis Department of Recorded Music at NYU. It was a department then. And I was like, I work at Clive. I work in music. I went to NYU. I never heard of it. What is this? And so I wrote back, hi, my name is Jeff Rabhan. I'm a manager. I'm in LA. I'm in New York all the time. If you ever need a guest speaker, let me know. I get a dozen of those a month.
Yeah.
thinking I was offering my service. I'm so magnanimous. And I got a response from Jason King, who was a creative director at the time. And he said, I know who you are. I'll be in LA for the Grammys. We should get together and meet. Now, this may come as a shock to you, Jared, but I wasn't a great student in college. I spent most of my time in the car in the park, smoking pot, trying to figure out how to get out of going to class.
Oh, no, I can believe that.
Yeah,
I believe that.
I believe it. And so he said, yeah, sure, you can come and guest speak. We have guest speakers all the time. He said, we're looking for a chair of the program. And I was like, well, what is that? He said, well, you oversee the program, the curriculum, the faculty, hiring, hourly facing. And I was like, well, that's cool. Can I do that from LA? And he was like, no, you actually have to be there.
Well, now you could. If it was 2020, you could have.
You know what? Maybe you could to a degree, but it would be complicated. But so I said, well, I'm not moving to New York, and it's not happening. But let me throw my hat in the ring. They're never going to hire someone like me anyway. I have no advanced degrees. I've never taught. I don't know much about how to run an academic program. But what I did know was, I said, you know what? This is a great program. And they have great faculty. I've never heard of it. They don't have any industry relationships. They didn't have an advisory board. They hadn't raised any money. They didn't have a big mouth. And I was like, you know what? I could do this job. I'll learn how to do the job. I'll pay attention and learn how to do the job well. But the things that they really need, I knew that I could deliver for them. And so I went through the process, and lo and behold, really, it was quite a long time. The process took almost a year. They offered me the position, and I moved without even asking how much it paid. I mean,
that's amazing.
I didn't ask, I didn't negotiate. I accepted it without even learning, just because for me it was. So I'm from the South, and everybody had in those days had the old bumper stickers like whoever dies with the most toys wins.
Yeah.
And my belief is the exact opposite. I think whoever dies with no toys wins. And so for me, this job, which was a 3-year job, it could be renewed for another 3. And I was like, so it's 6 years, I'll figure something else out. But meanwhile, I've been here 10.
Wow.
But to me, this was my way. I feel like, we're keepers of treasures, right? Everything that we've experienced and done, music, entertainment, books, whatever it is, like we have these treasures, right? And if you don't give them away, it's the most selfish thing in the world to do.
Oh, I love that.
I don't want them anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Like nobody calls me for music industry jobs because I turned down every meeting the first 5 years, and now nobody cares about me anymore, and that's okay. So for me, this was an opportunity to give away all the toys that I didn't want. And if I could be helpful in teaching what I've learned to people that really want it, then I'm able to close that chapter of my life in a meaningful way. And, now, fast forwarding, everything I used to do as an artist manager, I do exactly the same job now. I mean, I look at contracts, I listen to demos, I give career advice, I talk to people at labels and publishers and managers, I help, branding, endorsements, all those sorts of things. But the difference is, I make 80% less money for people that are 180% more appreciative of my time. I think that for me, what I wanted was that lasting relationship. And when you have the relationship with somebody as a teacher or somebody as a mentor, and it's not transactional, not paying you to do it, I call any kid who graduates. It doesn't matter if it's Andrew Watt or in the country with the Travis single, they're happy to hear from me. Like you have a relationship which transcends money and time, and that to me is the kind of the immortality that is valuable, and it's using the assets and the skills and the knowledge to give those away to people who really want them more than you do. And if you don't give them away, what's funny is when you a great comparison would be, it's like, my son was asking me, he's 14, was asking me about like COVID. And he said, very, very honestly, and I think, in some ways accurately, he said, but a lot of old people are dying. Isn't that just sort of like, survival of the fittest, like natural selection? Isn't that always the way it happens? And I said, well, yeah, scientifically for sure, but those are the people that speak the language and understand the culture and know the stories and where it's from. And when you lose those people, and I guess in our business, 50 is an octogenarian, but when you lose those people or you lose those stories and you lose those keepers of the treasures, you don't replace them, and you can't replace them. And maybe it's because I'm getting older. I just turned 50 last week.
Happy birthday!
Those are the things that
you look very young.
Thank you. Listen, can you see that gray?
Everyone's rocking the gray beards, by the way, in COVID.
I know. Listen, everyone's rocking the gray beards and like the mushroom head.
Jeff, you said a bunch of things that were really, really, interesting to me. I know for a fact that you're going to have, a huge, the teachers in my life that changed my life, whether it was recommending a book or pointing me in the right direction of something or other, or the relationships that I've had with mentors like the T-Bone Burnett's or the Timbalands have taken me further than any, business relationship that I could ever imagine. And when you said I took the job and I didn't look at what I was paid, when you called me and you said, Jared, we want you to be the in-residence NYU person, I think that's the first time since I started Jingle Punks that I didn't say, and what's in it for me? I said, I jumped. And then, obviously, afterwards, we just figured out how to do it. But like, to me, the idea of like, you're living in you're building this tiny house there. I feel like as I'm getting older, and I'm not, as probably as reflective as you are right now at this moment, because it sounds like you're very self-reflective, but I moved from having a Jingle Punks office with 70 people in it to back to being a startup again. And I've not been this happy in my life in this tiny room here where I'm running this business. I haven't been this happy since 2008. I'm so happy, and my purpose in the morning is so clear to me because I'm like building and renewing and also exercising these great knowledge relationships that I had from the past that are helping me be a storyteller. And just things like this, like talking to you, I probably get a better kick out of this right now than closing a $1 million deal. And that's not bullshit. That's like, after a while when you've done it and you've been to the top and you've put money in the bank, you realize that's really not it.
There are kinds of people that, that love to run things and love money, and there are other kinds of people that like to build things. And the people like to build things, certainly enjoy being paid for their time and certainly enjoy, running things. But, it's sort of like the innovator's dilemma. You build it and then what? Then what? Well, you want to build something else because you lose, like for me now, we moved to this Brooklyn space, which you saw. And
it's amazing.
Civilization, vision, now what we did what we needed to do. It's the most prestigious program in the world, and we have great facilities, and it's okay. Well, you know what?
I want you to talk about the space that you built, because anyone who hasn't seen it, I will say that I was shocked. I was a Tisch graduate, and the building in New York was fine, the one on Broadway. But what did you explain what exactly you built and what the studios are? Because even Zach, who has not seen it, who's my co-host, explain also the Beastie Boys connection to this too.
So we were in 8,000 square feet, and we had offices all over campus, and we had 2 studios and a computer lab. And the opportunity came to be part of the move to Brooklyn for the old TA build, where it was the brain of the Manhattan Transit Authority. And so we built a company. The downstairs is our production facilities, feeling almost like a large-scale studio, like a Hit Factory kind of place. And we have 34,000 square feet. We have multiple labs. We have 4 rooms, Atmos sound room, walls of glass in the studios. In our live rooms, double height ceilings. It's the most beautiful facility I've ever worked in. And I tell our kids, this will be the nicest place you ever record.
Fact. I've recorded around the world, and they'll never go to a nicer studio than the ones that you've built.
It really is. It's breathtaking how beautiful it is. And we designed everything ourselves, and it's exactly the way we want it to be. And, for the last couple of years, Beastie Boys have kept their studio in the West Village called Oscilloscope. And Deshin Yawk, who was Adam Yawk's widow, really was Adam's. It was in Adam's name. And they made all their historic records there. And John Silver, their manager, called me and said, do you guys need any studio space? And I was like, not really. He was like, well, we have, the Beastie Boys studio and like it's costing them money to keep it open. She maybe wants to close it, but not sure. Do you guys want to rent? I'm like, I'm in, give me like 50 hours. So we took 50 hours and 100 hours each semester for the last couple of years. And then we were moving, Nick Sansano and I, who's, my partner in crime, he's the co-chair and head of production. I made so many great records, Public Enemy and, Green Street Studios. And he's done amazing work. We went to Destin and we were like, do you want to donate it to us? We will keep it exactly as it is. I'll bring in that same shitty carpet. And can we put on this?
Yes.
Bring the same shitty carpet, that nasty couch, all the artwork, everything exactly as it is. And it'll be a working museum. Maybe, give it to us for, donate it or give it to us 20 years, whatever you want. And she agreed. And so we filmed the whole thing being taken down and building it back up. And we found the carpet. We found everything. She wouldn't let me take the nasty carpet. So we found the right carpet, all the colors. It's identical. All of their items, their CDs.
Wasn't that one of their albums, Nasty Carpet?
It's Hello, Nasty Carpet.
Oh, right. Yeah, right.
It's Hello, Nasty Carpet. And so the students have class in there and they work in that room. And we're going to actually do a big, we're going to do a big event in the fall. We were planning on doing it. We were planning on doing it in the fall. We're going to continue to do it in the fall and give it the appropriate christening. And
we'll be there.
Have wallpaper Mike D designed outside of it. It's fucking rad. It looks amazing.
Awesome.
I know that we're not the Beastie Boys, but this podcast is sort of our donation to the school, me and Zach. So we want, we've actually gotten a master class in, just circling back to some of my best of conversations with actually people like Jason Flom, who we said Lee Trink before, photographer Timothy White, who's taken all the photos at the Sunset Marquee. Don Lemon. It just goes on and on. The creator of True Detective. But my whole career, I've been lucky because I've been cross media, and I think that's how you and I also have sort of jumped into like how I could be of value in your world. I'm a musician really by trade, but I've also been a musician who's been an editor, a media person, an entrepreneur. And, by giving me the platform to even early on, the confidence that you gave me by allowing me to come to the school just to do like weird GarageBand or Logic demos in the old building, it made me feel like a rock star. And like, I used to take pride in doing that and doing demos at the Apple Store when most people would be just focused on growing a business. And I think that like, if anyone could take anything away from the experience I've had is, like you said, a curious mind. I say yes to everything and then I qualify it later, and I try to not, just limit my world to the things that I know. Being able to sit around Pooh Bear and learn how to produce vocals, or sitting around T-Bone and learn how to produce by not producing, or sitting around, photographers and understanding and having respect for a trade that also went through massive transformation. This guy used to talk about like the $250,000 a day for him to take the photo of Home Alone like this. And he said, well, that doesn't exist anymore. But you can still, music was like that. You saw the day of the huge advance where like everybody in the building would agree. They would commit, to put something out. And we're so hyper mediated now that I think that the students of the future are going to have a harder time, unless they're entrepreneurs that can market themselves, I think getting discovered, making the right noise. Even your guy that you were talking about, Watt, he's done such a great job at differentiating himself from hundreds, if not thousands of other writers that come to LA. And he's got his own image. He knows how to market himself. He knows how to, play all sides of the business. He's obviously a very wacky guy, but, what piece of advice would you give to the graduating class of this year going into probably the most upside down economy and industry moment that the world has ever seen? Do you have anything that comes to mind?
I mean, look, I think that, it doesn't matter like what area you're in or what it is you want to do. Like, there are certain things and there's certain skills. It doesn't matter like how good your image is or how good your branding is or how good your social media is. Like, it's about the song. Like, if you got great songs, doors open. If the songs suck, nobody cares about the rest of it. So I think, honestly, it's about keeping it simple and focusing on what's important. And B, I also think that where guys like you and I look, I've had all these different careers, all these different things, but it's always been kind of the same job. You know what I mean? Like, it's all the same. It's, there are lots of people that have been managers or marketers and being a jack of all trades now more than ever, I think has value. Your career path, would be something that I show to our kids and be like, he's been training for this his whole life to do whatever it is he wants to do because he knows how to do it. Like, you have to have a skill set to be entrepreneurial, right? You can't be like, it's sort of like, you can have all these great ideas, but like great ideas are a dime a dozen. It's like execution is what's like
execution.
So, I think that, now more than ever, people need to figure out how to be flexible and use all different things that they know how to do in order to piece it together. So what? So no one's going to give you $1 right now. Maybe you have to use 10 dimes to make $1. Use them. Who cares? So I think it's about being flexible. I think it's about keeping it simple, and it's about making the work great. And great work stands out.
Jeff, man, this is the perfect setup to the entire series. I'm serious, man. This is like
Rahban.
So this binge listening model that we're gonna do is the names in here are Modern Family creator Steve Levitan, sometimes pro wrestler and actor David Arquette, Jason Flom, NBA player JaVale McGee, Don Lemon, Peter Asher, who ran Apple Records, 24 Golden. The list goes on and on, but I can't believe that, we're actually, in these times that we are now. So hopefully people that are stuck at home, instead of watching Game of Thrones or watching the 10th reruns of The Sopranos, they'll put this on and get a little bit smarter, a little bit wiser, and treat it like a book. So we greatly appreciate NYU getting involved and Clive, the school, getting involved. You're such a rock star, and I really, I've never thanked you properly for letting me into your world, and I hope we're going to be doing much more when this is over.
You have many times, and thank you. I appreciate it. I do think all those names, you might want to reconsider starting with somebody a little bit bigger.
How about
just listen, like tree falls in the forest kind of thing.
Well, we got you, and then we got my friend. The most interesting episode we have, aside from you, is my old friend Rags, the pedicab driver. He's the only non-celeb in there, but probably one of the best episodes. That one? We should start with that one.
Pretty much any of the other ones would be better than this one. Virtually any of them, even the ones you haven't reported yet.
I have a couple of questions for you, Rabhan, my friend.
All right, hit me. But hey, guys, I got another.
Okay.
We're at 4:15.
All good. I was just gonna say, you said whoever dies with the most toys wins. You want to give away some toys. Like if you have any guitars or whatever, I'll just hook you up my address, send some stuff out here.
Send it. Listen. Send it over. I'll put together a little care package for you.
Great. That's great. Thank you very much.
And I'll take all your plaques. Have a good one, Jeff. Enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll get this thing out there.
All right.
Cheers, brother.
Bye-bye.
All right, Jeff. Take care, man.
Wow. I love everything that Jeff had to say there, as mentioned.
Yeah. Dude, that was like I don't know what happened to my internet like throughout that. For some reason, it was like a turbulent airplane flight. Yeah.
Please listen to the bingeable edition of Occupational Therapy. All of the episodes coming out in one foul swoop. We have names like Steve Levitan, creator of Modern Family, David Arquette, who talks about his transition from acting to wrestling career. We have Jason Flom talking about his transition from music executive to criminal reform activist, JaVale McGee, and the expectations that his family had on him to make it in pro sports, and how he's also seamlessly transitioned into being a super producer in music. We have Don Lemon carving his own path as a newscaster in the world of CNN. Peter Asher, who ran the Beatles label for years and discovered people like James Taylor and Linda Ronstadt. Rapper 24 Golden, who's on a path right now to become the next self-proclaimed Will Smith. Neil Brennan, my former boss and creator of Chappelle's Show. Craig Susser, I eat at his restaurant, Craig's every night, probably one of the most famous restaurateurs in the world. Breathwork expert JP Crimmy, photographer Timothy White. You've seen his photographs at the Sunset Marquis and the Morrison Hotel. executive producer of Conan O'Brien, Jeff Ross, pedicab driver and happiness expert Rags, and the list goes on and on. Fred Savage, creator of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Michael Davies, and there's just so many cool people in this masterclass. I really hope that people will check them all out. We apologize in advance for COVID quality audio. We're doing our best to get people up to speed with our recording process, but a lot of this has just been dialing people, Zoom recording, and if you like the episodes, tell me what you like. If you don't like them, please hit us up on Instagram or any social media where Audio Up or Jingle Jared can be found, or just leave us nice comments on Apple Podcasts. Thank you for listening and enjoy the season.